Good evening, and welcome to the Cabinet of Fever Dreams. Tonight, a tale of cars, drivers, and teeth. The Tufuber is read to you tonight by me, Mike J. Langer, along with musical backing by Repulsive. If you want to help this video travel through the YouTube algorithm, please check it a like and scream teeth in the comment section. Also, if you want to help keep the show on air and get access to early and bonus content, drop by patreon.com/MikeJLanger. Stick around for after the story for a bit of a channel update, but for now, strap in. This midnight ride is going to get bumpy. I shouldn't have sat in the front seat. I shouldn't have gotten into the car in the first place. But I definitely shouldn't have sat in the front seat. In my defense, I did put up resistance. When he told me to sit in the front, I mumbled something about preferring to sit in the back. I had been drinking. I was just looking for a quiet ride back home. "But you'll have no proper view from back there," Ginglick said, watching me in the rear view. "Come sit in the front, I insist." So, I did. I got out of the car, stumbled a couple steps forward, and then made a terrible mistake. "So," the driver started, as if we were rudely interrupted from a previous conversation. "I trust you've been having a wonderful night. What a beauty that Prague is around Christmas, eh? All the lights and the snow and the music and the trams. A true beauty. Be careful with that mulled wine though. Terrible for the teeth." "Terrible for the teeth," Ginglick repeated and tapped his teeth. "Terrible." Him putting his hands in his mouth is what truly scared me. That's when I was almost certain getting into the car was a mistake. I thought the man was on the verge of snapping, and I had signed up for a 20-minute ride across the city with him. This was before I went to the forums. This was before I read the other accounts. I didn't know this happens all the time. For a moment, he seemed preoccupied with his teeth, and I tried using that moment to fish out my earbuds, but Ginglick quickly wrapped me into another conversation. He started asking about my dental history, whether I wore braces or whether I floss regularly. I had hoped that, perhaps, he might have been a dentist. A really lonely dentist who drives nights and probably isn't doing great in his private life. I answered Ginglick's questions as curtly as possible and hoped for a speedy ride. That night, almost all the traffic lights leading to Zličín were green. I was happy for the speed, but the longer I listened to the driver speak, the more I wanted to get out of the car. His cheery mood quickly faded as Ginglick started to speak of teeth. The man kept his eyes to the road, but he was giving a zealous sermon. According to my Uber driver, teeth were the greatest, if not the only, true judge of character. "They are the only bones we grow ourselves," he said. "They are the only bone we truly deserve." He was definitely breaking traffic laws. I don't drive and I was pretty drunk, but Ginglick was definitely not driving safe. Just like all the reports from Paris to LA have suggested, the Tufuber is never a calm ride. "Half the drivers in the city are missing at least one tooth. They just don't care about them. They threw them all away," Ginglick raged as he overtook one of the bright Christmas trams. "And the Ministry of Transportation won't do anything about it. Not a thing. Oh, how this country has abandoned Havel's ideals. You can, of course, be assured that I still have all of my teeth." My Uber driver assuring me that he has all of his teeth is what made me reach for the seatbelt. I wanted to unbuckle so that I could run off at the nearest red light. He didn't like that. "Don't do that," he said, shifting his eyes from the road. "You need your seatbelt. Safety first. No airbags in this car." The car wasn't going to stop. We were flying through yellows. Ginglick seemed to be wholly confused by my concern about the airbags. "Ah," he said, as he turned his attention to the sharp turn off at Radlická. "Maybe you haven't heard. Most airbags will knock out all of your teeth. Dangerous technology. Pointless, if you ask me." Were we not speeding down my neighborhood, and was I not drunk, I would have jumped out of the car. But we were so close. I thought the terrible ride was about to end. Yet, it was far from over. "Oh, I can just get out over here," I said, the moment the car came to a stop. It was the last red light from my place, just a brisk 3-minute walk. "Oh no, I insist." He grabbed my hand. He was going to let me unbuckle my seatbelt. "We're almost at your destination, and, most importantly, you haven't even counted my teeth yet." For a moment, he smiled. But then, like a wild animal about to consume its prey, he opened his jaw. I laughed. It's the only thing I could manage. Ginglik, however, wasn't joking. "Count my teeth," he said, his voice cold. "Count them out loud so that I can hear too. Count them out loud so that I know I have them all." He turned on the sidelight so that I could see better. He opened his mouth so I could count better. His hand was still wrapped around my wrist. Not knowing what else to do, I started to count. Even after the light turned green, even after I lost count, Ginglik would not move the car. He told me to count from the start again. He told me to make sure he has all of his teeth. I counted. I counted because the look in the driver's eyes told me he would bite me if I didn't. When we arrived at my apartment, Ginglik started to deliver some long-winded lecture about dental hygiene, but I sprinted out of the car like my life depended on it. Reading the other reports, I don't think that's too far of a long shot. I didn't stay in the car. Ginglik didn't try to take out my teeth like so many tooth Ubers around the world do. Theoretically, I'm safe. Only theoretically, though. By the time I was in my elevator, my phone dinged. An email from Tooth Uber. It looked just like the regular bills that I receive from regular rides, but instead of a billed amount, it said something else. "Thank you for riding with us. The total for your ride is 1 tooth." It's been 3 days. I've read so many other reports of people who had experiences just like me. I've made some level of peace with what happened that night. The one thing that all the reports lack, however, the one thing that terrifies me, is this. I fear how Ginglik will try to reclaim his payment. Sup ghouls, it's me, Mike, the guy who writes all of these stories. Thought I'd pop by for a bit of a channel update. As some of you might know, the new season of the United People's Institute of Science is coming to this channel soon. Currently, there's about 20 individual stories read by various local prog actors and online narrators with a big old novella to follow. Originally, I started writing this novella as a writing exercise / joke, but I've grown pretty attached to it. If you like Pokemon, or Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian, or both, I reckon you'll enjoy it. Here's to hoping you do. I'm knee deep in the edits of the individual stories right now, but I'd like to aim for early March as a release date. For the next 3 weeks, every Friday, you'll get a re-recorded version of the Spaghetti Monster trilogy, and, if the Institute series isn't fully done by then, a couple of weeks of compilation videos to tide you over. As usual, all stories will be available early on Patreon. I'm holding off with the audio versions until I have all of them done in order, but hopefully, by the time you're listening to this, all the text versions of the stories will be available already. Big old thanks to all the Patreon supporters for helping keep the ship afloat. If you want to help but don't have the money to spare, tell your favorite big narrators to read some of the Professor Egghead stories. Really helps the channel get out there. Anywho, sending the spookiest of vibes to you wherever you are. Hope everyone is safe, sane, and healthy out there. See you next week.